Greetings, everybody. Welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fredland. We are officially sponsored by Running Aces Casino and Racetrack and also partnered with Next Level Poker, which is our official tour. Poker is Fun Tour, pokercoaching.com. A couple of quick announcements. As I mentioned last week, our All In for Africa VII event concluded with Rob Meyer taking down the crown. And then we also held our second event of this fall, and that was the Hawaiian Dream Winner Take Most tournament, which turned out to be a big hit. And Chris Bellflower, congratulations on taking that and actually booking your trip for two to Hawaii next spring. So that's exciting. And also next spring, we're going to be holding our All In for Africa 8 at Canterbury Park down in Shakopee, Minnesota. And if you want to be a bounty for that, feel free to reach out now, and plenty of more information will be coming later. This week is going to be a bit different, and really just doing some interviews that we collected during All In for Africa to kind of give you a flavor for the tournament, the kind of people that are playing. We're not going to be talking any strategy at all on this show, other than maybe what some of the folks might mention during the interviews. So basically, it's just the interviews. So if this is something that you're not really interested in, if you're really looking to continue just with the strategy pieces, then feel free to just shut this off and wait for next week. That's perfectly fine. But Pete Truline, who co-hosts the Pete and Steve podcast with me, he took the time to interview folks during All In for Africa. So that's what's on this week's episode. And then next week we'll get back into strategy. We're going to dig into a specific hand scenario that I had, and we're going to start doing some of that where we start looking at specific hands and getting input from a number of people, and then those decisions help us understand deeper some of the some of the paradigms and some of the perspectives and some of the principles that we've learned over the last several weeks. So after a word from our sponsor, we're going to launch you right into the interviews that we conducted during All In for Africa. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack has the best poker room in Minnesota, featuring 24/7 promos on all cash poker games, including earning $2 per hour in comps, plus the most player-friendly tourney structures. Visit runaces.com for daily promotions and the tournament calendar. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, the official sponsor of Rec Poker.
Why do you play this tournament? Is this your first time playing, by the way?
No, I played last year.
You did?
Last year was my first year.
It's for the money.
I have a fun job that affords me a pretty good life. I mean, I'm not sitting on I don't wipe my butt with money, but I'm doing all right, and it's a pretty easy gig doing radio for a living. And so anytime I can use any kind of celebrity status or whatever the heck you want to call it to give back. Any kind of, honestly, any charity. I don't know a single charity that exists that isn't worthy. And so I didn't really know much about All In for Africa prior to playing last year, but I know that.
Have you been playing? Have you been playing for a while? Or?
So it's kind of an interesting. I don't know if it's an interesting story, but.
A story, nonetheless.
It is. There is a story, nonetheless. Yeah, I actually, me and a couple buddies. I lived in Omaha at the time, and me and a couple buddies got into and this is going to sound like I'm just saying this, but this is the honest truth. We got into it about, I want to say 6 months before Rounders and before Moneymaker.
Oh.
And so we were getting it just as it took off. And when it really blew up. And so it was an really exciting time for poker. I was single at the time. I had disposable income, and I never was very good. I'm the guy I'm the quintessential did pretty well at home games and did okay at low limit stuff at this casino, but whenever I tried to move up, I just didn't do very well. I just didn't want to play. I don't think I had the desire to put in the time to really learn the game and really, really hone it. And then since then I've gotten married and had kids, and so now I hardly ever play. So, and now, but honestly, back then when I played and I was trying to get better, you didn't have poker on your phone. You didn't have it at every turn. It wasn't as accessible as it is now. And so now I sit, once we put the kids to bed and we get into bed, I'll sit and just, I'm just playing free, but I don't know what it is, Zynga poker or whatever it is on my phone. And you're still getting hands in, you know what I mean? You're still remembering what worked, it's the biggest thing I've picked up in just sitting and playing free poker on my phone is the reminder that if you have like second pair and there are 2 or 3 in the hand, you probably have the best hand. And it's so easy to to be gun shy or afraid if there's an ace on the board or a king on the board and you've got a pair of nines. It's so easy to think if they bet it, they've got it, and they probably don't.
Right.
And so it's it's the little things like that just just repetition and playing the game and learning, trying to commit to memory, what works, what doesn't work. Obviously it's to a certain extent a grain of salt when you're playing for nothing, but you get a feel for a table that's even a free table. You get a feel for who's taking it seriously and who's just screwing around. You know what I mean? There's $60,000 of fake money in the pot and somebody raises $1 million. It's like, what the hell are you doing? And I just fold and I just don't even engage in those hands.
Well, it makes me ask the question, like, psychology is an important part of poker.
In my opinion, it's every. You have different people with different opinions, and I think psychology is 90% of it. Sure, math and being able to calculate and on the spot, all that. That if you can, Super System was a huge help in just learning percentages, and like if you're sitting on a flush draw, on the flop, you've got about a 30-ish% or 28% chance of getting there, where as opposed to an inside straight draw, you're
and I'm not a poker player, so all that sounds like pops and buzzes to me. But
so inside straight draw is if you're sitting, you've got 4 to a straight, and the one that you're looking, if you've got an open-ended straight draw, you're looking at each side of it, right? So let's just say you've got 2, 3, 4, 5. Now an ace or a 6 can help you get to that straight.
Right. Okay.
As opposed to an inside straight draw, which is what you would have 2, 3, and 5, 6, and you're looking for only the 4. Oh. So you've got less odds of getting there, right? Mm-hmm. Like a flush draw, you've got a bunch of cards left in the deck that can help you. But it's anyway. So it's calculating the odds certainly is and some people are way more mathematic about it, but to me, it's all about playing the person and the psychology of the game, and I think the biggest thing, the math can be learned. I feel like reading people can be learned. To me, the biggest difference between being a real poker player and not is that ability to know when. You know what I mean? Know when to push, or when to, if you want to bluff. Just having a feel. That's part of it is just the reading the person, but having that gut instinct of when is a good time to push a person, or when's a good time to just get out of the hand and not mess around.
Interesting.
That timing is so it's so cliche now, but it's so true. The poker shows on TV, on what the heck is it? World Poker Tour. They always say, or even on the World Series of Poker on ESPN when it first started, they always say it takes a second to learn and a lifetime to master, and it's so true. It's cliche, but it's so totally true.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can ever totally master it.
Wow, that's good. That's good. And the mental toughness part of it sure seems like it would be a big piece too, because like if you lose a big hand or win a big hand, you have to keep it level, right? You can't just lose a big hand and then all of a sudden go straight down.
You've got to. Hey, Andrew Lee. There's Andrew Lee.
Oh, hey.
Get in here.
Yeah, come on in here. We're doing.
You don't even need headphones. We're just talking about right now. He's talking about. We were talking about the mental toughness of overcoming like a bad beat or just losing a big hand. And that's another. I keep saying that all of this is a huge part of it, but that is another huge part of it, of just being able to shake it off and not let it affect your confidence, and just keep, trust what you're doing and trust that you know what you're doing, and just keep playing rather than, just completely unravel and come apart. It's like any other sport, right?
Yeah.
You're let's say you're a hockey team, because I'm a hockey guy, and you're getting, you're out shooting the team, 30-10, and you're just utterly dominating them, and they come down and score. And it's easy. That's when you need to dig in and just be like, we got to just keep doing what we're doing. We're crushing this team. It's kind of, I think it's very much the same thing.
Yeah, you see it in football all the time. Quarterback throws an interception. What do? They get out there and they run the next play. They don't,
right.
And I look at poker. I look at poker the same way. It's like every hand is an individual play. And just because something bad happened on the last play doesn't mean something bad's going to happen on this play. And it's really easy to get in that mindset of, oh, I just got a bad beat, or I just, I've been getting terrible cards after terrible cards. So clearly that's going to keep happening. Well, that's not true. Every hand is an individual play, and you have to look at it as such.
In fact, if you want to look at the odds, if you just got a bad beat, chances are you're not going to get another one for a while.
Right.
If you look at odds.
Right. Well, it's sort of like the hot hand theory. You know, it's in basketball. If somebody's got a hot hand, you know, and
Feed them the ball.
Yeah. But you know, is that true, or is it just luck?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, poker is a very mental game, and if you go into a hand assuming that you're going to lose, you're going to make bad decisions in that hand.
That's so interesting to me.
You know, you're going to end up folding when maybe you should have called, or calling when maybe you should have folded.
And how important is like when I'm not a poker player, like I said, but when I look around, it seems like people are trying to be disinterested. Is that like the kind of the poker face? You know, like you don't want to give away.
Right.
Like obviously, if you get a card, you don't want to react to it.
It's a style of play that people choose. I'm a very quiet player because I don't want to try to give away too much information, and so I'm at the poker table. I don't talk much.
Okay.
And I don't, people ask me questions, and I try to give as short an answer as possible because that's just my personality and my style and how I feel like I'm best at not giving away information that I don't need to give away. Other players are really chatty, and that's a tactic that they use.
Yeah, I think I come off as a jackass at the table. Seriously, because I'm the same thing. Because I'm the same way. I'm very quiet, and it's not even so much giving stuff away. I'm focused, and I don't really want to chat too much. If I'm playing low limit, 3-6 or something like that, then I'm actually the person. Because one of the other tactics that they talk about is trying to kind of garner the spotlight at the table and be everybody's best friend, because then people will still say that they don't want to beat you. They want to give you if you become everybody's best friend, then suddenly you're you have a table image of people wanting you to win, almost rooting for you, so to speak, and or they may call something when they don't even think that they've got you beat. I've heard of that anyway, and so that's another way of looking at it. A class clown would be good for me because that's kind of I talk a lot, and as you can tell, and I'm generally a pretty I think affable dude and pretty happy-go-lucky for the most part, and so I should probably just do it. But if there's something about sitting at the table and I just clam up and get serious and think. And I think part of it is, like I was telling you, I used to play all the time, and now I don't. And I'm honestly thinking, like, if I'm gonna raise, I need to. My brain's not conditioned. I have to sit there and go, okay, there's that much. So if I want to raise, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking constantly. Right. It's kind of like a guitar player who's not an expert, and they're kind of looking at the strings as they're playing. That's me.
Right.
At the poker table, I'm so rusty that I'm actually working. So
do you guys know any good poker jokes? What's your favorite poker joke?
I don't know if there are any good
poker jokes.
Semi-clean. We don't have to give it real clean, but semi-clean.
I like the line from Ocean's 11 when I think it was George Clooney who said he turns over a hand. He goes, "It's not really a joke. I just think that the line and the part in the movie is funny." He's like, "I'm not really sure what the 4-9s does, but I think the ace is pretty good."
Right?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And anything in rounders is fantastic.
Yeah. My biggest joke is my pre-flop play. That's generally.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's
generally pretty funny.
My pre-flop play is when I'm the best. After that's when it goes downhill.
After that is when it all goes to hell.
Oh, that's good. Hey, well, thanks for coming on here. And throughout the tournament, if you want to stop back, we're just trying to get some sound bites to maybe hopefully put on the podcast. So.
All right, and Paul promised that if I outlast him, I get a weekday shift on cities.
Oh,
no,
okay.
he didn't.
No, he did. No, he did.
No.
I've got the tweet to confirm it.
Okay.
No, I said that if you outlast me, you can do one 15-minute shift overnight on Alt 93.3.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
All right, thanks, guys. Good luck. Or what's your name, first of all?
Dan Young.
Okay, great. And why do you play this tournament?
I actually won a Twitter buy-in through Steve, so I just kind of came up to play. And usually on Saturday mornings aren't great for me to play, so. Okay. But I won and was able to find a babysitter, so here we are.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a great tournament for a great cause. So
great cause, exactly.
Why would you not want to?
And how long have you been playing poker?
Oh man, probably recreationally for at least 12, 13 years. We used to play back in college a lot, and then kind of got out of it for a little bit, only home games. And now that I've lived in Minnesota with access to 2 casinos, play at least once a month, if not more. But wish I could play a lot more.
Yeah. And so why do you play? Is it for the money, or is it for the fun, or what do you like about it?
Yeah, I love the challenge of poker. Just the the mind game, and it's just fun. Of course the money's great, but in the end, it's just a couple hours of fun for me. And like I said, I wish I could play more. And cashing's always great, but that doesn't always happen. So.
Well, I mean, it's nice because a lot of hobbies don't have that potential upside. So you could spend a lot of time, biking, or potentially, winning money.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the mental part of the game. How important is that? I mean, it strikes me, I'm not a poker player, but how important is the psychology, the mental toughness? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think it's super important. And obviously, me being a rec, I'm not probably the most mental player of all time, but I know these guys are, and they think through everything. And I mean, it's just insane how good people can get mentally, and knowing what you have, or what you're doing, or how you're playing. And it's huge. I'm not there or even close to it, but a lot of these guys that we'll be playing with today are. So
there's some fantastic players here, man.
Yeah.
And how long have you known Steve for?
I've actually just met Steve.
Oh, okay.
I had I've just talked to him through Twitter and email and stuff, but today's first time I met him was about 3.5 minutes ago.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, I've known Steve for a long time, so yeah, he's a great guy. So if you won this tournament, how would you spend the money? What's the pot, by the way? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay. I don't either. But I think last year was something around $5,000. How would you spend the money if you...
Oh, man. That's a good question. I probably wouldn't. I would probably save it or put it into a poker fund so that I could play more often, I guess.
Nice. That's a very smart response. Good for you. Well, thanks for participating. We've got one of these. You can turn it in at the table and pick out any gift you want, I believe, the Splash Pot gifts. So there you go.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, and good luck today.
Thank you.
All right. So let's start off. What's your names?
Jason Schweiger.
Okay, great. And is this your first time playing this tournament?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And why did you decide to play?
I've played a charity tournament in the past and kind of fun, so I just wanted to have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of tournaments up here. I actually do a lot of charity work, so mix the two together.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's the thing. When I'm not a poker player, but I help out with this tournament, and when I tell people I'm doing a poker tournament for charity, they're like, that doesn't seem like it jives. But, like last year, I think they made $13,000 in one day, to get fresh water in Rwanda. So, it's fantastic. So, and how long have you guys been playing poker?
3 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, better part, yep.
Okay. And let me ask you this. So are you sort of new, would you consider yourself newer poker players compared to some of these guys, or?
Yeah, compared to some of these guys, yeah, for sure.
There's some good players here.
Yeah, I was looking at the bounty list, and there's quite a few pros and good players. Travel all over to play.
Years and years and years.
Yeah. And who's the guy? There's a younger guy here. I think he's like one of the best in Minnesota, actually. I think he just walked in, so.
But hopefully he's not at table 8.
Schneider, I think his name is. Anyway, so for a relatively newer set of players, how much do you think this game is? What percentage is the cards you get, the emotional part of it, reading other players, the psychology, and how much is just your knowledge about when to hit and when to... can you give any kind of a breakdown like that?
I mean, I've found it's not just the players, it's the position, it's the selection, so there comes a lot of patience in this and knowing when to act, and then sticking to your guns when you do choose to act. That's important as well.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I'd say all those are accurate, and as far as skill to luck, maybe 80-20, 70-30, luck being the lower end of all that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So a really good player can win consistently, regardless of the cards.
If you look at all the bigger tournaments up here and you see who carries on to day 2, you see residually the same names of certain players over and over and over again. And
absolutely.
I know nobody's that lucky to do it every time, so there's a lot of skill involved.
Yeah. That's so interesting to me. All right, let's see. So who do you think has the best chance of winning? Or what are your chances of winning?
100%.
I like that confidence. That's good.
I'm here to have a good time, so I mean, you got to believe that you can win in order to win. I believe that, so I think I have a good chance. There's a lot of people here. I have to stay humble. They're a lot better than I am, but I'm going to do the best I can.
Yeah, nice. And how about for you?
Hey, I won't go 100 because nothing's 100. I'll say 99.
Okay.
And you just got to be patient, wait for your cards, pick your spots, and go from there. But I seen Chris Wallace, I think, is playing in this one. And, I'd have to put my money up there if I was going to be a bet man.
Okay. I'm going to try to get him on here too, so I'll tell him that you said that.
All right.
Well, thanks so much for participating here, guys.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so why don't you just tell us your name?
Dan Lehman.
Okay, great. And you're not playing the tournament, but you're standing around wondering what's going on, I guess.
Yeah, I came for the regular 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock tournament, and then I didn't look, so I saw this was going on.
But how long have you been playing poker?
At least 10 years, I'm not sure.
Okay. And how often do you play?
I play once or twice a week now.
Okay. And what do you enjoy about it? Is it just a money thing, or is there something else to it?
The challenge, to beat the other players, even though frequently they can get lucky on you and beat you anyways.
Yeah. Well, that brings up an interesting question that I've always had, because I'm not a poker player. But what's the percentage breakdown between luck and psychology and cards, would you say, in this game?
I've never read anything on that, but I guess I like to think it's like 80 to 90% skill, and then the 10%'s the luck thing.
Okay.
But you had another category.
Yeah, like the psychology, reading the players and kind of the mental toughness side of things.
Psychology is probably 80%,
Okay.
Because it really is hard to read someone's, like one guy I saw his vein really throbbing, and I thought, is that a defect or what? It was really pulsating. I wasn't in the hand, I was just watching him, and he ended up folding, but since he was thinking so long, I think he must have had a hand, so that wasn't like a bluffing throbbing, that was a throbbing where he had a hand and was really wanting to make a call and couldn't, but I never got to see what he had, but he folded.
Wow, that's great.
So people say that could be a tell, but I'm like, how could that be a tell? Other than like in that scenario, I thought he might have had a hand.
Right.
But it wasn't the nuts, so he folded it thinking the other guy had a better hand.
Wow, that's interesting. That's cool. So your tournament is coming up here at 8, right?
Oh, they canceled it for this, but I just didn't look at the calendar ahead of time, so I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
It was at 10 though.
Okay.
So I come every Saturday at 10, and then every once in a while they throw in special tournaments like this.
Okay. Hey, well, thanks so much for being on the podcast here. That's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Anderson.
Okay. And how long have you been playing poker?
Since 2005.
Oh, okay.
12 years.
Okay, so that's quite a while.
Quite a while, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's good. And what do you like about it?
Definitely just the competitive nature, the mathematics, kind of the combination of different skills and just enjoyment of sitting and focusing and seeing the different things, the different, especially in tournaments, the different dynamics with chips and players and their skills and their attitude toward the game.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing, really.
Well, and I'm not a poker player, but one of the questions I've always had about poker is, what would you say is the percentage breakdown between how much is the cards you get versus luck versus like the psychology, versus reading players? Is it like a 20, 30, 50?
I think for everybody it's definitely different.
Okay.
And everybody, I think at all skill levels, your different approaches and tactics and strategy coming into the game, given even the different variations of table dynamics, already different, the different type of game you're jumping into.
Like the different player style?
I think there, a lot of different strategies will focus different percentages on each of those approaches. Overall, you gotta run good and play good and at the right time, no matter what. But and I think.
So you could be the smartest math guy and have all the hands down and all the percentage and probabilities, and still get beat by someone who can read the other players. In some situations.
Certainly, and that's part of the joy of the game is there not one strategy is perfect. There's certainly optimal strategies, and many are students of that. But I think it's a great way to not be able to pin it down to one or another. In the long term, a very math-focused player is probably going to do decently, if not, well, long-term over the course of many years. Whereas in the short term, different strategies might be a little more profitable. But
right.
Anyway.
And what's your strength? What would you say?
My strength.
Yeah, just an all-around.
Folding. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Check folding is my strength. Which I've focused throughout my 12 years of playing. I used to be a very more of a student of the game than I am now, just because of I don't play as much anymore. And I would say my game has evolved over those different what we mentioned earlier. Percentages probably varied, but overall I just try to make the right decisions. Really is my only key, and I think sometimes I do better than other times, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And so what do you think your chances are of winning this tournament today?
I just really want to have fun.
Okay.
With everybody, it's actually my first time I've had the availability to play one of these this year, and I'm just excited, to be able to play. I won my way in, which is cool in itself, just to be able to participate. But maybe now I can throw a couple of bullets, having a little more fun, maybe a little more on the aggressive side, just to play some pots, and, just have fun with people,
Well, it just seems like, everybody here is just such a cool guy. It just seems like a kind of a cool community of, people with the same interest.
It's an incredible community, and especially here in Minnesota. Some who play kind of, I think, have known us to have, a decent to pretty outstanding community, overall, as far as regular players and approaches to the game and skill level and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Fantastic. Hey, well, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Great.
This is fun.
Yep.
Heidi Rogenkamp.
Okay. And
Sexy pants.
And hey, do you want to get in on this?
Yes, she does. No, she walked away.
So Heidi Rogenkamp or Sexy Pants?
Yes.
Either way, yeah.
I guess so.
And is this your first time playing this tournament?
No, but I haven't played one in a while because I moved to Fargo, so I've missed the last 3.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Pretty glad I get to make it this time because I didn't have to work today. So.
And how long have you been playing poker for?
A long time. I would say, 13 years probably, roughly.
Okay.
Right in there.
That's interesting. That's about the length of time, because I've interviewed a few people here. That's about the length of time that a lot of people have been playing for. So was there something that happened 13 years ago?
No.
Is that when it started getting bigger in Minnesota or something?
I suppose it's probably when bar leagues and stuff like that happened. I used to play a lot when I was a kid with my grandpa, all the different table games and whatever, home game stuff. But I think that's when kind of it started to be on TV a little bit, and the free leagues around the areas. So I was a mom with 2 young kids, so it was nice to get out of the house.
Yeah.
So I think that's what started me on it. But
that's great.
Yeah.
And so I'm always interested in the breakdown between, what percentage of the game is luck, the cards that you get, what percentage is psychology, reading the other players, and what percentage is like the mental, like the math part of it? Do you have any? What's your strength? How do you play the game?
I think if you asked everybody, they'd give you a different answer about me, based on tournament, cash game, or the mood I'm in.
You got to keep them guessing. That's
absolutely. No, I don't know that I have a specific strength. I say, to me, the psychology of it, the mental game of it is a big deal. I did better once I started reading more about the mental part of it, just because I used to tilt really easy.
And what is that? I'm not a poker player.
Okay.
What is tilting?
When you are ahead and you know where you're ahead and someone beats you when they shouldn't, kind of a thing, where the luck comes into play a little bit. So you take a bad beat and shaking it off is a little difficult. So then you let yourself get upset and play with emotions behind it, and you shouldn't. So being able to kind of put that off to the side and regroup and just play the game for what it is. But I think the math of it and the psychology of it are a bigger deal for me. Luck always comes into play a little bit, obviously, because you can be way ahead and you know, a 1 or 2 outer, the very 2 or 3 cards that could beat you in the whole deck, one will show up, and that happens. But you know, that's just part of the game. But for me, it's definitely the math and the mental part of it, I think.
Okay.
And I'm here for the entertainment always. I'm definitely that person at the table.
Okay.
So I'm always the one-liner, sarcastic. You know, that's me for sure, every time. So.
And what do you think about being sort of outnumbered? Because there's not a lot of women that are playing this tournament, and maybe even poker in general. I don't know. What do you think
enjoy
about that.
I enjoy that because I love to see that there are more and more women playing and becoming a prominent name in the game. When I first started to play, that wasn't the case, and so we definitely were underestimated, which was great because they didn't. Unfortunately, they didn't give you credit. They didn't give you respect. They thought you didn't know what you were doing, which you could use to your advantage completely, which it's more difficult to do now, especially when you're a local player and more people know you, so they know your game and they know that you might know what you're doing and they know you're capable of a bluff or whatever. But, I think that there's a rising force of females in this game and they're earning respect and they're doing great. I love when they succeed, and we're kind of a tight little family, we really are, so we all cheer each other on and it's pretty great. So
that's great. Well, and that's what I noticed about this tournament. My girlfriend and I have worked this a couple years in a row, and people just seem so friendly. I was so surprised. I thought it'd be a bunch of stingy people.
Nope.
You know,
a lot of Minnesota nice in this room.
Yeah.
We are one big happy family, and these are just like big family reunions for us.
Purple panty pull down.
Don't ask me about that.
Yeah, what is a purple panty pull down, by the way?
It's a shot that was created in Albany, Minnesota, and last week at the Bounty tournament at a home game, he wanted to know what a good shot was, and his sister, I believe, he said, was a bartender, so he was trying to find out a good shot, and I said, tell her to make a purple panty pull down. He spent the rest of the night texting about it. So anyway, that's what they are. They taste like grape Kool-Aid, but I haven't had one in years, but I know that they're pretty good. So I just can't believe he brought that up. Go figure.
That's good. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today.
I appreciate it.
Do you listen to the poker podcast?
I do.
You do? Okay, so some of this might be on there. So
That'd be fantastic.
You could be famous.
All right. That could be. I don't think so. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Tom Selski.
Okay. And is this the first time you played this tournament?
Yes.
It is. Okay. And how are you doing so far? We're at the break.
I doubled up so far.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how long have you been playing poker?
Probably about 5 years.
Okay. Okay. And how did you get into it? Like, where did you?
Just started watching it on TV. Tried it, read a few books here, and have enjoyed it ever since.
Okay. And how long have you known Steve then?
Just met him a couple of times up here playing poker.
Okay. Okay. And I'm not a poker player, but one of the questions I like to ask people is how much of the game is psychological, how much is the cards you get, how much is kind of your knowledge about the game. Any thoughts on that?
I'd say probably about 50-50.
Okay.
It's a game of chance too, but you got to play your position.
Okay. And let's see, I've got a question here, and you can feel free not to answer this one, because this one's kind of a tough one, but what's the one thing you're most ashamed of doing or saying after a bad beat?
Player in on 2 and player in on 1.
Nothing really.
Nothing. You're okay. You're well behaved out there. Then. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, we just had a bad beat on the table today. I had pocket aces against pocket kings. Right in the window was kings, and all of a sudden they slid the card to an ace.
Oh no! And what did you say? You didn't? You just kept your cool?
It was just cool. It was cool.
Okay.
I mean, I was on the. I would have went home, and it was against the chip leader, so it happens.
Wow.
So there's a little skill, a little luck in there too. And the minute I saw that king in the window, I thought I was bye-bye. I was on my way home by now.
Yeah. Wow.
And now I'm here after the break.
Okay. Well, good luck, and thanks for answering some of these questions.
Yeah, you bet.
Great.
Yeah, great tournament. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Here, I'll give you one of these for a splash pot. You can go over there and pick any prize on the table.
So my name's Kelly Gunderson. I'm on Twitter. I'm Talkette.
Oh, okay.
So I follow Steve and a few other poker players. I'm one of these people that I love to follow poker, but I don't get the chances to play very much.
And why is that? Just a time constraint?
Yeah, time constraints. I wish there were more women in it.
Yeah.
And I'm one of them that wishes they could play more. So I think that kind of tells you, why there's not a ton of women. But it's fun to follow on Twitter and follow along.
Well, I interviewed another woman, and I asked her about that. I said, what do you think about, being outnumbered like that? And, so what do you think about that? Is it good or bad?
I think it's an advantage. In fact, the toughest tournaments that I've played in, I think, I haven't played one for a while, is the all women tournaments.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's much tougher to play against other women. I don't know why, but with guys, I can read tells better.
Oh, interesting.
And I get gut feelings better, but when I'm playing with other women, I have a very hard time with them.
That is so interesting because, generalizing here, but women are better at reading.
Yeah.
I think some of those emotions, just that, more practiced at emotional intelligence.
I would say the same thing.
Well, that's cool because the other woman that I interviewed said the same thing, that she thinks it's an advantage because people underestimate you at times. And
and I think I can play a little bit better, kind of mix up my game better against a table of guys. So, yeah. But it is to have other women at the table, just to kind of, I think we kind of keep the talking going a little bit more. We have a little bit more fun. Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been playing poker then?
So that's a really good question. I would say, it was great. The state of Minnesota started with the bar leagues, to have that bars could do poker tournaments, and that's how I started.
And when was that?
So I'm trying to think when. So my kids are 12, and I think it was like the year or two before that. So I think we're going on 13, 14 years, I think.
It's really interesting you say that because most of the people I've interviewed, I asked that question, and they say about 11 or 12 years. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what happened 11 or 12 years ago? Because that's when everyone started.
So I'm also not only a poker junkie, but I'm a political junkie as well.
Oh, okay.
And so I can give you the story really quick, is that bars were looking for other things to do to compete against each other. This was before the smoking ban, and he's currently the mayor of St. Cloud, but he was a state senator, Dave Kleiss, introduced a bill, had a decent amount of support, and the whole point of it was that it's not really gambling because you're not using your own money. But it was a way for bars and restaurants to bring more people in. And it has to be a free tournament. You can't require payment or purchase from a player. So actually, that's how me and my husband started playing. And then after we had our kids, the bar that we were playing at needed a poker tournament dealer or runner. And I said, sure, because I was at home with my kids, and I got into it even more by watching. So like how everybody likes to watch poker on TV, you pick up a lot of information and knowledge. I was just watching the tournaments I was running, and I was learning even more. So I did that for about 4 years too. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So here's a question for you. How often can a good player expect to win, do you think?
Well, do you mean win or do you mean cash?
Cash, like end the day up.
Yeah, I always look at if I can get to cash, I'm doing really well. That's a complete win for me is if I cash in a tournament. So, but to win, I have never won a tournament like here at Aces or at Canterbury. I've won, bar tournaments. Where you're playing for $100 or something like that. I've won a few of those. but it's rare. So for me, it's if I cash, plus, but I'm there for just something to do, a hobby, get to know other people, and just have a good time and relax for a few hours. So
that's the other thing I noticed. It just seems like a cool community.
Yeah.
I'm not a poker player, but I come here and it seems like everyone's just friendly, getting along, and
well, I think Steve's tournament really does a lot to bring out, a charity tournament. I think people are having more fun. You feel like you're doing something good at the same time that you're having a good time. But yeah, the tables today, everybody's having fun and talking and joking around, and it's a more relaxed atmosphere. But still, even if I come up and play, at Aces, if I play a Friday tournament or, Wednesday night or something like that, it's still, once you kind of get the banter going, break the ice, then it's a really good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Do you have anything that you'd like to say before you go?
No, but hey, thanks to Steve and everybody who was doing this. Thanks to Aces. It's such a great community, a great place to be up here, and so hopefully I will be at the next one down at Canterbury.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike Qualley.
Okay. And you're here playing at the tournament, the All In for Africa tournament. And are you still in?
No, I just went out.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Dang it.
Yes.
But you've got some other things going on. The PPA, you said, and what does that stand for?
It's the Poker Players Alliance.
Okay. And tell us about what that is.
Basically, it's a national organization. There's about 1.2 million members. 25,000 or so are in Minnesota, and we represent the poker community for online poker.
Okay. And how big of a industry is the online poker in Minnesota? Any idea?
Minnesota, well, at this point, there's no way to tell because there isn't licensed and regulated online poker here. It's all offshore black market sites that are basically operating illegally, but there's no way to shut them down.
Okay, but in some states they do have online poker, right?
Yeah, Nevada, New Jersey, Delaware, and we just got it passed in Pennsylvania, which was a big state for us because of the amount of revenue that they're going to cash in on. And the fact that it's been a pretty long haul there. It was about a 3 to 4 year battle that we had there, and it wasn't easy, but we got it done. There's Michigan is considering it, Illinois is considering it seriously, New York is seriously considering it. California's been going around and around with it for about 10 years now.
Okay. And what is your role in all of this?
My role, I'm the Minnesota State Director. Okay. My job is to seek out legislators who will, sponsor and write a bill for us.
Okay.
And to coordinate our activism within the state of Minnesota.
Okay. And do you have any leads there? It sounds like you've made a little bit of progress.
We've had some leads. We've had some people that have expressed interest over the years, and the best one was 2 years ago a state senator who wanted to write the bill, but a month later resigned from the Senate, so he's gone. And so I've got about 4 months now until about mid-February to try to get a bill written, to find someone to write the bill.
And why February? Is that a deadline?
That's when the session begins. It'll about mid to late February, I think, this year is when the session begins.
Okay. And what would you say to somebody who said, well, I wouldn't support a bill like that because poker is just going to encourage people, gambling addiction and people wasting money, and how would you respond to it?
See, that's the beautiful thing about it. The majority of online poker players are, nickel, dime, 25-cent, players. They're not the big pros, although the big pros do play. And as far as the addiction goes, without licensed and regulated online poker, addiction issues are not dealt with. The beautiful thing about having a licensed sites within the state is the fact that they have tools to help people with addiction, to literally cut them off from playing. Players have options of
putting loss amounts, maximum loss amounts if they choose. There's also the fact that you can only, deposit X amount of dollars, within a certain period of time on these sites.
Okay.
Age verification is another thing that's real big. In the 3 states that have had it for 3 or more years now, that's Nevada, Delaware, and New Jersey, there hasn't been one case of underage players playing, whereas the black market sites, anybody can get on there. And it's been proven. We've literally taken laptops in the states and shown the difference between, a licensed site in Nevada, for example. You get stopped at the door. I mean, basically, you open up the site and it says, you're not from Nevada, you cannot play on this site. Whereas, if you go to Carbon Poker, for example, you're in.
Wow.
Doesn't matter. They're not checking your age. They're not checking anything. There's no addiction, regulations that they work with people and families to, players can really do a lot to help themselves.
Right.
As far as the addiction.
Question on that. I think everything you said makes a lot of sense. Is there online poker considered gambling? Like, is that fall under, like, in Minnesota, only casinos can only be on reservations, if I understand correctly. Does the same laws apply to online poker?
Pretty much. The Minnesota regulators would oversee the sites, as far as the laws go. In New Jersey, for example, that's the state that's had the toughest go with the regulators. They have been on every aspect, and New Jersey has proven to be I'll say it, the poster child for online poker in the United States, because they've done it right. They've worked with their regulators. They haven't had any problems whatsoever. If there were little problems, they were worked out along the way before they ever got anywhere near being back at defeat. But yes, just like a casino, the online sites, and actually more so, because on a casino floor, you can't control every person that's on that floor. There will be some people that may be underage playing. Online, you don't get in the door.
Yeah. Right.
Without, having proper ID, proper verification through Social Security numbers, through bank statements, whatever. If the site has any reservations about your age, they're going to ask for more and more information before they let you in.
So it sounds pretty secure. What are the benefits here to, like, the state and to, like, the people of Minnesota that you're thinking about?
Well, the biggest benefit is the revenue. Mm-hmm. The safety aspect, the consumer protections are huge, and that, I can't stress that more. But let's face it, right now, while we're talking, there are people playing on the offshore sites. That's revenue, tax revenue that could be coming in to the state that's flowing offshore. So on a daily basis, we have no idea how much is going overseas, but the state would be able to collect tax revenue, as well as the fact that, the players who do play on the larger levels would be paying taxes as well. Just like with the lottery, you pay, if you win, you pay tax on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what's your next steps that you're trying to do to get this accomplished?
My next steps is to increase the number of people that are involved with the advocacy work here within the state. I can do so much on my own, behind the scenes, going to legislators, but we need hundreds, if not thousands, of people that will be willing to spend 5 or 10 minutes a day doing daily action plans for the state if we get a bill that's out there, writing their legislators within the state as well as in Washington, making phone calls, simple things, just 5 and 10 minute things that can be done. I have a site called Minnesotans for Online Poker, which is on Facebook. I encourage people to come and follow that page A lot of the work right now is being done in other states, but we want to make Minnesota an active state this coming session.
Okay, and give us that website again.
It's MinnesotansForOnlinePoker.com? No, it's on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yes. So it's not a website. Okay, I gotcha. Yep. Okay. And if people want to get involved, is that the best way to go to that?
That's the easiest way. They can also find me on Twitter at McCusick, MQUSICMQ. That's my name on Twitter. And that's another easy way to find me if they need to get a hold of me directly.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful. Yeah. So if you're interested in, continuing working with poker community, check out the website. Get a hold of Mike on Twitter and Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And okay. Well, thank you so much for your time here.
No problem.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Wallace from Next Level Poker. In the poker world, people mostly call me Fox.
Okay. And now I'm not a poker player and I don't know anything about it, but you won.
You should play then.
I probably, no. But you won a World of Series poker bracelet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and tell me about that.
In 2014, I won the $10,000 buy-in Horse World Championship.
Okay.
200 entries. You'd probably recognize a poker player. Somebody who follows the game a lot would recognize most of the names in the field other than mine. It was a tough field. It was kind of the tournament that I would have wanted to win if I could pick one.
Wow.
It was a great day for me.
And what does a bracelet winner mean? That's
a bracelet is like having a World Series ring in baseball or a championship ring in the NBA. It's not quite a green jacket where we're only a couple people. They give away about 45 of them a year. So it's similar to having a Super Bowl ring kind of thing.
Wow,
it's pretty cool.
That's a good. That's cool. How often can a good player expect to win?
When people ask me about luck in poker, the amount of luck is inversely proportionate to the number of hands played. If you and I each play one hand, and we just put all our chips in the middle, it's just a coin flip. It's all luck. If we play 1,000,000 hands, I'm going to win. So it's really just about how long the sample size is. How often a player can expect to win depends on what their win rate is and how long they play and how much variance is in the game that they're playing. If a bad player sits down and plays 10 hands of fixed limit hold'em, they're going to win 45% of the time or 48% of the time. If they sit down and play 200 hands of pot limit Omaha and they're not much of an Omaha player, they just don't have a chance. It's going to be very rare that they're going to win over that kind of sample. And if they play 1,000,000 hands heads up with an expert, there's zero. They're just zero. It's almost infinitely small the chance that they would ever win.
Interesting. So here's a saying, poker saying that kind of goes along with that. Whoever wins the most pots loses the most money. What does that mean to you? Or how do you explain?
It's an old saying that was very true at the time and is probably somewhat true now, but there are times when it's definitely not correct. What they're talking about is the people who play, if you play every pot to the river, you're going to win all the pots you can possibly win. You're not going to let any sneak away, but you're going to lose so many pots, and the pots you lose are going to be huge. It's basically talking about that tight play is rewarded, but that's not always true these days. Back when that saying happened 30 years ago, whenever it was that kind of came around, it was in a couple of poker books. That was probably true in almost all games, that the tightest players were winning the most money. But nowadays, that's simply not always true. I know some players who play a lot of hands and make a lot of money. They're really, really skilled players who are very comfortable with a lot of variance, big ups and downs. But they're good players, and they make a lot of money, and they play a lot of hands. And in tournaments, sometimes that's how I am. You really have to vary your play according to the table. You can't make the table do what you want. They're not going to change. You have to take what they give you. And if they're folding every hand, then play every hand, raise every hand, and steal the blinds over and over again. And if they're calling down every pot to the river, then just play monsters and make them pay. Be the water, not the bucket. Just take the shape of the bucket.
Okay, nice. So here's another saying. If you can't spot the sucker at your table in the first half hour, it's you. So do you, when you sit down at a table, do you size people up?
I do that immediately, and I do it more than most people do, even more than most pros do. My memory for other players is not nearly as good as a lot of my fellow pros. So when we're talking about hands, they will say, "Oh, it was this guy, and you know how he is, and he plays this way, and he does all these things," and I don't remember all that stuff. That kind of memory for me is so bad as to be almost a disability. A brain researcher told me, "You're good at this, and you're good at this, and you do this really well, and all these things," and I was feeling pretty good about myself, and then he said, "This is basically a disability here, this memory problem." So I don't remember those things, and so I learned to assess people very quickly when they sit down, because I have to do it every time I play with them. Right. You know, in many cases. I mean, if I play with somebody enough, I certainly remember things. But and also playing in Vegas so much these days, I don't play with the same people nearly as often as I used to in Minnesota. So I've gotten very good at assessing people immediately. How did they walk up to the table? Who did they look at? How did they look? Did anybody know them? Did the dealer know them? How did the dealer respond to them? Where did their eyes go? How much did they buy in for? How did they stack their chips? Did they buy in hundreds or 20s? You know, how do they look? Are they wearing a suit? Do they just come out of the club? Do they have a drink in their hand? There's a million things you can assess about people.
Right.
I've gone over this stuff with my students and had a ton of fun with groups of students. Or I went to a seminar in Reno, and we held this seminar for 11 students. And I didn't meet anyone ahead of time because I wanted to do this as a complete cold read. Walked into the room, introduced myself, and then went around and introduced everybody else to themselves. So these are things I know about you because of these things that I see on you, and told everybody about themselves. And it was a great way to illustrate how powerful that is. You know, one guy had a Guess watch on. It was like a $100 watch, and between the Guess watch and the shirt that he was wearing, I said, "You make between $40,000 and $80,000 a year." And he said, "Well, okay, a lot of people make that, but how did you know for sure?" And I said, "Because you have a $100 watch on, which almost always indicates that you make between those numbers. Somebody who makes, somebody who's completely broke doesn't buy a $100 watch. Maybe they get it as a gift, which is why I also looked at your shirt."
Oh, interesting.
People who make more than $80,000 a year almost never have a $100 watch. They have a $20 watch or they have a $10,000 watch. Right? I've seen billionaires wear $20 watches. I've never seen them wear a $100 Guess watch. If you become fascinated by people and you start looking at all those things in people, you realize how much you can learn about someone just from looking at them and from seeing their movements and talking to them briefly. You can learn so much. Wow. So I have my students do exercises where they're reading people, they're learning things about people. And then when everyone's favorite subject is themselves, and
right.
They love to talk. If you want to meet people at a bar, if you want to pick up girls or guys, buy them drinks and ask them questions and act like you're interested when they talk. Right. That's like that's the ticket to charming in a lot of social situations. Mm-hmm. And so when you're at a poker table, you can ask somebody questions and they'll talk all day. Yeah. Right? And I have that same inclination. I love to talk. But if I'm trying to make money at a poker table, I'm asking questions. What do you do for a living? Oh, and you sound interested. And they'll talk to you all day. And if they start talking about poker, ask them questions about how they play, and they'll tell you all about how they play.
And great. Is that something you can learn, or is that a lot of intuition, reading micro expressions?
It's definitely learned in my case.
Okay.
It was a thing I had to learn. When I started making the switch from online to live poker, I took a test online that was like an example of an autism test where they would give you 27 pairs of eyes, and they would block out everything but the pair of eyes, and they would ask you, what emotion are these eyes portraying? And I did worse than if I had guessed randomly. And I thought, God, I can't read people at all, and I didn't know. Mm-hmm. So then I read about how people learn to read people and how people learn to read facial expressions. And so with people who have trouble reading facial expressions, whether they're on the autism spectrum, Asperger's, or have some other sort of issue with not being able to read people's faces well, I'm many indicators for me that I'm not on either of those spectrums, but I was clearly very bad at reading faces well. And so they teach people like me as well in these same ways. But they give you kind of a checklist. There are people who do it innately very well. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend just reads people, she doesn't even think about it. She can't even tell you why.
Right.
And I can tell you exactly why, because I had to study it and figure it out. So like right now you're smiling and the smile goes to your eyes and there's wrinkles next to your eyes and I know that you're actually smiling. But if you give me a bullshit smile where if you hate my guts and you smile at me because you have to, then it doesn't reach your eyes and the wrinkles don't happen at the edge of your eyes, right?
Right.
I had to learn that and 100 other things like that and what they mean. Like, so they'll teach people to go through this systematic thing. His eyebrows are up, his voice is very loud, and he's leaning forward toward me. He's angry, right? Or his eyebrows are up, his voice is very loud, but he's leaning back and he's looking up, so he's excited, or those kinds of things. Going through that checklist of what do all these things mean, and that's what I kind of had to do. I had to learn it in a systematic way because it wasn't intuitive for me at all. I wasn't good at reading people at all, and now I do it a lot more than most of my fellow pros. Now it's a bigger part of my game than it is with most people.
That's so interesting. So what advice would you give to an amateur?
Study hard. Learn about the game. It's the most complicated game that human beings play. It's the only one that computers don't beat us consistently at. They're beat us at Go was the last one left with poker. Now they're beating us at Go. So poker's it. And there's some poker games where maybe they're beating us, maybe they're not, some they're not. But it's the only one where they're definitely not consistently beating us.
And why is that?
Because it's so complex. The number of potential chess moves is some insane number, right? But that number is nothing compared to the number of ways a poker hand can play out. It's infinitely smaller than how many possible ways a poker hand can play out, especially when you're playing no limit.
Interesting.
If you factor in all the potential stack sizes in every seat, all the potential hands in every seat, all the potential table images and things that people can think about you and things you can think about them, and tells you might pick up and bets you might be facing and bets you could make to return those bets and what their range is going to be and how they're going to respond to different bets, it's infinitely more complicated than chess. So when you start learning about it, it's very interesting. You just have to be interested in it and then study it, because most poker players don't study it. Most poker players don't study at all. And it feels to me like when I was in the music world, I played music and built guitars for a living for a while, and what I learned in the music world was that most people will jam in their garage with their buddies and drink beer and write songs and wonder why they don't get discovered. Slash from Guns N' Roses went to Juilliard. But they don't see that. They see like Slash on heroin up on stage with his hair in his face, or they see like Slash drunk ripping off a solo from somewhere. They don't see that he went to Juilliard. Like if you want to be successful in the music business, it's not that hard a thing to do. But most people who try to do it are the wrong kind of people to be successful. CPAs don't fail to become CPAs. Nobody flunks out a CPA. It's probably a tiny fraction of people who decide I'm going to be a CPA and then don't end up successfully doing accounting, because the kind of people who want to do that are the kind of people who are successful at it. Everybody who wants to be a rock star fails. Same thing is true with poker. Everybody who wants to be a poker pro, they almost all fail because they don't do the right things. They just keep playing. They just play and they think, I'm going to really get them today and I know how to bluff, and they come up with a bunch of dumb reasons why they're going to win, or they learn just enough to be dangerous and they think, I've got these tools now. I can't tell you the number of students I've had who've taken 3 or 4 lessons and then decided I'm good. And like that, you got to give yourself an education. I've given myself the equivalent of a college education in poker.
So how much time do you spend working on your game now? Do you still put in the time?
Not nearly enough. I'm always thinking about the game, and I get a lot out of the lessons I give. Honestly, I learn a lot about the game, and I keep my game sharp from the lessons. I do watch some training videos on some training sites. I just watched a video on Redship yesterday. I do some of that, but I don't do enough of it anymore. And I talk about the game a lot. And my girlfriend is kind of my star student, and she's always asking me about things, and then I have to pull up my spreadsheet that I use with my students and figure it out and get a hand equity calculator and all these things and kind of make sure that I'm right, Mm-hmm. And if I'm not right, then I learn something. But it should be, it should be like 25% of your time or something is studying as opposed to playing. It should be a 2 or 3 to 1 or 4 to 1 ratio. But you should be doing like real studying during that time. Training sites, books, coaching, whatever it is that however you learn the best. But there should be real time put into that. And I see people who do that become very successful. It's not that hard a thing because the good news is when no one else studies hard, if you study hard, you can win.
Right. So that leads me into another question. I've asked a few different people this. Now, I've said I'm not a poker player, but what would you say is the breakdown, like the percentage of, to be successful, the cards, like the psychology, reading other players, or the mental game, knowing the probabilities and things like that? I mean, do you have any sense for...
I see the whole thing, and it's probably because of the way my brain works, you can kind of see it almost in space, but on the left side, I see the equations, all the things that you can put variables into to solve. And in poker, honestly, they're not that complicated. As you get into very high-level poker theory, they get more complicated, but there's some world-class players that don't know any of that stuff. The basic math is not complicated at all. And then on the right side, I see the variables to put into those equations, and that's complicated stuff. Because I'm watching a guy for a timing tell, and I'm not sure if he has that timing tell or not, so I'm kind of weighting his range from one thing to the other thing. So maybe he raised a pot, and I 3-bet him, and he called, and the flop comes ace 4-9, and how many combinations of hands in his range have hit that, right? It's just, and if I know this guy because I've been paying attention to him, and I know he'd only call that raise with ace king and a pair, and maybe ace queen suited. Ace queen suited, there are only 3 combos left because one of the aces is gone. Ace king, there are more combos, right? There's a bunch of combos of ace king, and then there's queens through or kings through 10s. Then there's a set of 9s he could have, and then there's the other hands all the way down except for the set of 4s that he could have. So how many combos is he going to call me with versus how many combos he'll fold? And then is he ever going to call without having the ace? And in this case, probably not. Most players are going to be pretty afraid of that ace after they get re-raised. I'm thinking about all those things while I'm looking at the guy, trying to figure out, is there any reason that I can weight this range one way or the other by how he reacts to the flop? If I watch him watch the flop and his eyes flash down to his chips right away and back to the flop, then I think, he's got ace king or ace queen much more often here, and I have to check behind and see, say I've got a pair of 10s, check behind and see if I hit a 10, because betting here is just going to get me either called or check raised. He's not folding if he's got an ace, because he's going to have a really good kicker with his ace because he called a 3-bet, and I know this guy. If instead he stares at the flop like he hates it and keeps wanting it to change and his eyes never move from it, then I think, he's really unhappy about his pair of jacks right now. Because he called my 3-bet, he's probably got a hand like 8s through jacks. He didn't re-raise me, so queens, kings, and aces are much less likely. We're talking about ace king and then like jacks and below as the bigger part of his range. And the ace king's not there very often when he stares at that flop like he hates it so much. Usually he's happy about that. Especially if I know this guy has that tell, or if he has those kinds of tells often. Then I know he probably didn't hit that. So, maybe it's 80-20 that he's going to fold to a bet here. So I make a reasonable sized bet. I bet 2/3 of the pot and he folds most of the time. If he calls, sometimes my tell is wrong, my read is wrong, sometimes he's just stubborn, sometimes he's thinking about setting me up, or sometimes there's 2 clubs on the flop and he has 2 clubs and he doesn't love the flop because he knows he's going to have to call a bet, but he's going to stick around. So you watch him on the turn and see if you can pick anything else up, but most of the time you have to have the then mental discipline to just check behind on the turn and fold the river if he bets, if you think he's got it, and a lot of people don't have that either. So they're really all multipliers. And to me, it's the equations on the left side, the variables on the right side, and then underlying all of that is the mental ability, the emotional strength to make the right play when you know what it is. Because those top 2 things help you know what the right play is, but a lot of people know what the right play is and don't make it. It's not fun. Playing poker the right way isn't as much fun as playing poker the dumb way for most people.
Yeah.
So it's those 3 components, and they're all multipliers of each other. If you have 2 of them really good and the other one you've got nothing, you're not very good. If you have all 3 of them at 50%, you're much better than having 2 of them at 100% and 1 of them at 0. They're multipliers. So, 6 times 6 times 6 is way more than 10 times 10 times 1.
Right.
So when they're multipliers, you have to work on the ones that you're weakest at. That helps a lot.
Okay. Well, final question. What's the biggest mistake that you see beginners make?
They play too many hands, and they play too many hands out of position in particular.
Now, too many hands, because does that contradict what you were saying earlier about the more hands you play, the more even the odds are? Or
well, that's total hands that you see.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Not total hands that you play. Total hands that you have a chance to play. Total hands that you're dealt into.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Most beginning players can't play as many hands profitably as I can. So they should be playing less hands. If I'm at a tougher table, I play less hands, in most cases. You adapt to every table a little differently, but in general, if I'm at a table full of world-class players, I'm much tighter and much more careful. If I'm at a table full of really bad players who are very passive, I'm going to play a ton of hands because I can make a lot of hands profitable. I can wring pennies out of some of those hands.
I see.
But a beginning player can't do that. And almost everybody overestimates their own skill level. I probably do it too. We all do it. So when you're getting started, don't assume the table is soft. It's probably not as soft as you think. You see the mistakes other people make. You don't see the mistakes you make, or you wouldn't be making them. The table is almost always tougher than you think it is, so play tighter than you think you should. And then play much, much tighter in early position, because early position gets you in trouble.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that is super interesting, and I thank you. You've got a great radio voice, and you've got a great style here, so very good interview.
Did you just hire me to do something?
No, I don't know. No, I didn't. But I should.
Well, if a radio job comes up, I'm tired of poker, just let me know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that was fun. Thanks to Pete Trulene and Leanne Larson for putting those interviews together and for volunteering at the event. Quick word from our sponsor, then we'll come back and I'll just close this off with a few other thoughts. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack has the best poker room in Minnesota, featuring 24/7 promos on all cash poker games, including earning $2 per hour in comps, plus the most player-friendly tourney structures. Visit runaces.com for daily promotions and the tournament calendar. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, the official sponsor of Rec Poker. Well, once again, thanks so much for those of you who supported us by playing or donating to All In for Africa, as well as the Hawaiian Dream. We're going to be having more and more of these. The casinos love them because they get a lot of people in there, and several of those that haven't played before. The players love them because we make sure there's a ton of value. We take some money out for charity, but then we also add the bounties for All In for Africa. We had over $10,000 in bounties, so we almost became a full prize pool with that. And then for the Hawaiian Dream, that actually turned out to be an overlay where we had a prize pool of $11,500. We had 77 entrants on a $140 buy-in. So it ended up being an overlay actually there. So a good value to the casino, good value to the players, but then also good value to the charity. Between the two events, we ended up raising more than $26,000 for the Against Malaria Foundation. So it seems like a great model. It seems to continue to be building, and I want to thank those of you who helped sort of make this dream into a reality. So that's it. As always, I'm open to your feedback on Facebook, Twitter, email stevefredland@gmail.com. As I mentioned, I'm going to start doing some specific situations and hand reviews, so feel free to write one up with as much detail as possible, I guess, and email it to me at stevefredland@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at those, and maybe it'll make its way onto the podcast to be analyzed by our pros. So that's it. Thanks so much.